All right, I'm starting the recording again, and I think we should have everyone back. All right, we're going to roll into our presentation for this morning. I am not going to do this introduction justice because I know that there is a whole team of folks from Green Village Initiative on the line. So I am going to pass it to Sherlene, who will help me with that. But I would like to introduce Sherlene Rodriguez, who's the School Garden Program Manager for Green Village Initiative, or GVI, in Bridgeport. And I believe Sherlene is joined by at least one, maybe two of our food corps service members that are serving with GVI, Yadley Turnier and Vetiveah Harrison, among others. Sherlene, can you see if you can share your screen just to make sure we're all set with technology?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm gonna hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about what y'all are up to.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dawn. Let me just hit present here. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and attention this morning. And thank you, Dawn and Nairi, for inviting us to present what GVI School Garden Program has been up to this past year. I'm here with most of my team, including Robert. So Yadley Turnier, Vetiveah Harrison, who are our two food corps service members, Misharo Frazier, who's our school garden coordinator, Brianna Wall, who's the operations director at GVI, and we have Robert Peck, who's our new youth program manager. So we're kind of rolling in deep here, but I love it, as we always do. Before I jump in, I'd like to paint you a picture about what this past year has been like for us. And I'm sure all of you can relate. For us at GVI, the pandemic has really impacted the way our program operates and serves the Bridgeport school community. The most important impacts, and I'm going to just name two. One is that our service members have not been able to be, for a long time, haven't been able to be on school grounds or in the school buildings in order to do hands-on learning or virtual learning. And then we had a lot of technology issues, which is another thing that's plagued, I think, the Bridgeport school community across the board for everyone. In addition, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, about what our program is about. One of, and this has hit hard for us, but we were unable to host our signature field trips to Reservoir Community Farm, which is our educational farm in Bridgeport, for 3 seasons in a row. In addition to that, from an organization perspective, many of the GVIers, including myself, were hired during the pandemic, and our office has been closed for the most part, only open to allow a few people in at a time. But as you can imagine, from a team building perspective, trust building perspective, it's been tough trying to live in a Zoom world. And we're really grateful for the springtime, you know, from spring to fall, because it's the time when we can be out at our community, whether it's the community gardens, the farm, or school gardens. And we're really grateful that this spring, with vaccination rollouts and everything, that we're able to really move closer to what is considered normal for our program. That's a picture I'd like to paint for you. The last thing I'll say before I jump in to the presentation, and this is really to talk about some of the things we've been up to, is that given the impact, we had to reinvent ourselves a little. And most of our work centered around gathering feedback from the school community, listening to what they're saying that they need, and saying, okay, let's take that feedback, let's break it down into something that we can do. And then in addition to that, a lot of the ideas were we're also pulled, but also augmented our own ideas from spaces like this. So we appreciate spaces like this where we get to hear from all of you what you're doing, and especially what works. So all of this work that I'm going to present to you is a huge collaboration with my team, the school community, and believe it or not, all of you. All right, so jumping in. So GVI is an urban agriculture organization in Bridgeport. Our mission is to grow food knowledge, leadership, and community through urban gardening and farming to create a more just food system in Bridgeport. And we're working to do this to make sure that people are able to participate in their food system from seed to plate in ways that are inclusive and non-exploitative of each other and our environment. Food grown by and for the community would lead to a more robust community driven food system and catalyze local economic development, which I think is really important for the city of Bridgeport. So a little history about us. Green Village Initiatives came from Westport to Bridgeport in 2012 by building close relationships with the Nutrition Center and the city administration. And in 2011, GVI built 23 school gardens in public schools. And we partnered with Food Corps, I think it was 2014 or 2015, to help us with getting the human resources to support teachers in doing hands-on, really the educational component at the schools. And then we also began hosting our free field trips to our farm site, which has really been a really important part of our culture and how we, share space with the school community. So here's a quick little timeline of where we are today, where we started. I mentioned we started in Westport, now we're in Bridgeport. And since then, we've developed 4 robust programs. One is our farm program, which runs the urban farm that I mentioned, Reservoir Community Farm. We have our youth leadership development program that's run by Robert, the school garden program, which is run by myself, the community garden program, which is run by Jessica Ramos. Oh, so sorry. Okay. So yes. And then I'm going to just quickly introduce our team. I've mentioned Brianna Wall. They are the Director of Operations at GVI. Myself. Mishara Fraser, School Garden Coordinator at Green Village Initiative. Yadley Turnier, our second-year Food Corps service member. Vetiveah Harrison, also our second Food Corps service member, but it's also her first year serving. And I just want to point out, because I think maybe even myself, I forget to acknowledge, but I love the fact that our team is made up of 4, well, first all women, and then also just some strong, creative, beautiful Black women. And they provide so much to our program. So I couldn't do anything without them. So I'm really grateful for them. Okay, so our program right now is, and I'll go into this in detail, but in September of last year, we launched a school garden educational resource hub, and we named it the School Garden Toolshed. This was a collaboration between our Food Corps service members, Sacred Heart University, and ourselves. And since then, since its launch in September, we have built out many pages and keep adding. Everything we're doing at this point is with the intention of putting it on the Toolshed so folks can access it. Our professional development workshops for teachers, at this point, we're in a good rhythm where we have at least 3 strong workshops every school year. We just completed our last one in April, and it was about Gardening 101. We offer our school community garden supplies and tools twice a year during the beginning of the school year in the fall and at the beginning of the spring. Normally we host 8 to 10, so that's about 4 per season. Free field trips to Reservoir Community Farm. We also do raised bed repair and replacement, and I think this is where another major chunk of where our work has been dedicated this past year, and I'll go into that a little bit further on in the presentation. We host 2 food corps service members to serve at 4 elementary school. We host a school garden advisory committee, and we just in February we launched a new bi-monthly newsletter, which is meant to be, and you'll see the length of it. It's probably a good 7 to 10 minute read, but it's meant to have all the resources that you need to get yourself started at different capacities, which I'll go through as well. All right, so I'll just go through this and then I'll show you what it actually looks like. So our school garden tool shed has lesson plans, gardening resources like our crop guides, planting guides, and composting information. It has all of our recorded professional development workshops to date, including the presentations and the lesson plans. We have an extensive children's book list to support the lesson plans. And one of the things we haven't been able to do, but we do offer it, is to donate all the books to a school library if they so choose. And it's home to our surveys request forms. And this is our hub for where we collect a lot of data as well. So I'm gonna just actually exit the presentation and just go into the, give me a second. I just switched screens. Can everyone see that? It should say.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So this is our homepage. And on the left-hand side, you would see this is where you would be able to get kindergarten through 6th grade lesson plans. I'll just show you an example of 1st grade, but it's all organized by season and by themes. So in the garden, nutrition, ecology. And so you click on these and it'll bring you to a lesson plan. This is fairly new, but this is a page where we're looking to highlight school gardens and post stories. So we're right now we've got these 3. This is the Lewis Marin rebuild, Thomas Hooker rebuild, and the multicultural magnet rebuild. So 3 rebuild projects that we've done this past school year. And as I mentioned, I think now that everybody sees the value of being outdoors, especially during the pandemic, they're also noticing that a lot of their gardens, if not well tended to, are falling apart and are in need of some work. So we've been providing, I would say, design services to help reimagine what garden spaces could be to be more friendly for outdoor classroom use. On this page, which I'm going to show you, we have all of our professional development workshops. I'm just going to highlight a few of them, but as I mentioned, we did our gardening 101. And I think this one was a huge hit. All of this has been done virtually this past year. Food justice lesson. This presentation was given by Vetiveah Harrison. It was her baby from beginning to end, and she did a really good job of putting a really great lesson plan together, talking about food access in Bridgeport, along with talking to teachers about what food access means and highlighting the fact that school gardens are an access point for families and the school community. As I mentioned, our forms and surveys can all be found on this page. Gardening resources, this is fairly new, but this is where we have our seasonal crop plans. a few guides. We've got our cover crop guide, our seed starting guide, and some information about worm bins. Nutritional resources. This is another place that we've been working with various partners to put together. So we've got infographics that we've put together about the different types of just different fruits, vegetables. We started tea time with Michelle Fraser. She's putting together some great information about different teas. And the purpose of this is to encourage tea time in schools. Social emotional learning initiatives are huge in Bridgeport. And so we're trying to encourage teachers, you could do a tea time garden, you can grow different herbs, harvest it, dry it, and make a whole ceremony around herbs that will help children with just, as a calming effect with chamomile, energy. So different type of herbs that could be grown, and then ways they can use and prepare it in the classroom. Cookbooks, we have a few that we've put together. This was in collaboration with an organization, 2 organizations. We have Build On by Bridgeport, so we have those 2. And this is actually really cool, this interactive multimedia cookbook, because it has interviews with urban farmers and shared recipes from Bridgeport. And then we shared the food core recipe book here so that it complements what teachers are seeing from our food core service members. And then our list of children's books.
Hi, Sherlene, just a quick time check. You've got about 2 minutes, and then we could take a few questions.
Okay, perfect. So that leaves me with our last thing, which is our newsletter. So our newsletter looks like this. Can everyone see that? So basically this is our, I think this was our last one. So we're advertising GVI current events, talking about food core applications, our spring kickoff. We're highlighting new resources on our tool shed, professional development. I'm highlighting lessons per grade that is relevant to the season, a read aloud book, the Barnum Grow Kits, which I'm sure you heard of last time at our last meeting. And then Megan Hadley, who I believe is on the call, this is one of her beautiful drawings that she gave us permission to use. So we love sharing resources with our community. So we welcome all and everything. And then grants. I think this is another important piece, is sharing space for grant information that teachers can click on and hopefully, take advantage of. And then our nutritional resources, talked about these infographics. All right, so that's all I have for you. A lot of work, but all of this is fairly new. So yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, Sherlene, it's Allie. I have a question.
Hey, Allie.
This is amazing, and I can tell you guys put a lot of work into this, so thank you for sharing it. I'm just wondering, like, how you share this with the Bridgeport community and other maybe organizations. And I know, like, you got a bunch of the different teachers from maybe the food core schools and other schools in Bridgeport to join those professional development webinar type things. I'm just wondering, like, what your outreach is like and how you kind of get people to look at all of these resources and just share it among the community.
That's a great question, Allie. So I would say, I think the outreach has always been an issue for us, and that's where the birth of the newsletter came from. We're still trying to figure out how to add a MailChimp subscribe button to all of our multimedia pages. But I would say just sharing it in spaces like this, it's open to all of you. And that's one strategy that's been really helpful. Another strategy that's really helpful is I've been spending a ton of time this past year building relationships with the like the Board of Ed and the superintendent's office. And so they are subscribers now. And the idea is I don't know if they're actually doing it, but I got them to agree to share this information. You know, if they get a newsletter and they want to forward it on, to please forward it on. But that at the very minimum, they are subscribers. And I think, as I mentioned, it's a bi-monthly newsletter. So we've had 2 done, one in February, one in April, and we're working on our June. And I've gotten a lot of feedback already about how helpful they are. And as I mentioned, we, or maybe I didn't go into too much detail, but this week we have a free seed and seedling drive happening at the farm. And we're getting a lot more participation. Last year in the fall time, we had maybe 4 schools show up out of 23. We're in day 3 now, and we have at least 9 schools that are participating. So we're seeing indirectly, I guess, the impact of sharing all this information out with folks. And more, we do send out our surveys, and more responses are coming through that they're aware of our resources and that they are using them and finding them helpful. But I think the newsletter, as I mentioned, is a bit long, but it's intentional because it's something that they can hold on to, you know, in their inbox, and they could just go right to it and find what they need that's relevant right now. Even though it's on our tool shed, they don't have to go searching for it. So it's trying to keep ease of use on the user end in mind as we're moving forward with our work.
We could take one more question. It looks like Val might be claiming that. Go for it, Val. Oh, you're on mute.
Sherlene, this was just amazing. And we'd love to see this happening in Hartford. How do you get schools to participate? Do you have all schools in Bridgeport, or some kind of lagging behind? Does a principal make a decision? A teacher come forward? How does that work?
That, Valerie, unfortunately, is a very complicated question. And I think everyone would, you know, maybe relate to this, but that's been a struggle for us. A lot of our relationship building has been more on a personal level. You know, as we talk to one person, they introduce us to another person. And the strategy that I've been trying to use is a going to the top. So working, and Dawn knows this, Dawn has been there with me, trying to build relationships with the new superintendent, and just raising as much awareness. So what I've been doing is just trying to market ourselves as much as possible by like one strategy that I think that's been really, really helpful with raising awareness is, and I'll say is bragging, is basically sending emails. I send an email every month to the superintendent and his executive directors, who are basically the bosses of the principals in Bridgeport. And I send them like, hey, this is what we're doing for the Bridgeport community. They don't have to respond. It's like, here's what's new. And now they're getting to know who we are and our names. So when they hear GVI, or they hear, you know, Food Corps, they know who, you know, who's working in the community, who's trying to make an impact. And that's been, I think, really helpful, because even if I go to a principal, the first thing they say was like, I don't, especially during the pandemic, is like, I don't know, I have to go, you know, I have to speak to my executive director. That the executive director has to speak to the superintendent. And so they're very hesitant to make any big decisions without getting approval. So I've sort of had a 2-prong attack with building relationships with the principals, the teachers, and then also trying to build relationships with the district. And the best way I've been able to do that without being like calling them, or obviously being able to share space, is through our newsletters and just sending an email, an old-fashioned email saying, this is what we've been up to.
Oh, very impressive.
Thank you. Thanks for the question, Val. Thank you so much, Sherlene, for coming to share. I know it's just a taste of what GVI has to offer. We'll make sure that the link to the website is in the notes if it isn't already. Thank you, Allie. I know you're on top of all that. Sherlene's email is in the chat, and hopefully we can have you and the team back sometime to do some follow-up, because I know there's a lot to dig into there.
Can I just say one more thing? Thank you, Dawn. I just want to say, I want to just give a special shout out to Yadley and V, who are two amazing food corps service members. This is their last, and I hate goodbye. So this one is a tough one for me, but at the same time, they have been super instrumental to everything we've been able to do. They've poured their heart and soul with me on the projects we've been doing. So after this July, this will be their last term with us. So we will be hiring for 2 food corps positions at GVI. So if anyone knows anyone who's interested in food corps service, applications are still open. Interviews are happening now. So if you know anyone, please send them to Dawn or Catherine. And yeah, we're looking for, forward to the next chapter and see what else we could do. And then one other shout out, I think Robert is on the call if you have any questions about this. So GVI is hiring for a youth program coordinator. So if you have any questions, you can talk to Robert Peck, who is, Robert, can you wave or peace? Yay, Robert, thank you. All right, that's it. Thank you everyone for your time and attention.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, GVI team, so much. Y'all know you guys have a special place in my heart, Dawn's heart too.